Hi, my name is Greg Remke. I direct programs for economic thinking, and we're a nonprofit that tries to provide economics education to high school and homeschool speech and debate students. This is a recorded presentation on the proactionary versus precautionary principle in the context of innovation. I'm going to draw from a number of Foundation for Economic Education articles relevant to this topic. For years, I worked with FEE helping direct their programs for speech and debate students. And the idea here is that you might listen to this, be interested. I'd be happy to come in via Zoom or Skype or in person to discuss these ideas and principles in more detail. My background, I have a degree in economics from the University of Washington, where economic history was a core part of the program. And so economic historians very much interested in innovation and human progress and how we've come from being so poor to so wealthy. And this Lincoln Douglas value debate topic is very much part of that. So the proactionary principle, this is in the resolution. This is an unusual word and phrase. It's not used much, but it is used by the Breakthrough Institute that has a number of articles on the proactionary principle. So what does it mean? Well, I'm going to argue that it's very much the same as permissionless innovation. The idea that you step forward, you want to be careful, you don't want to hurt people. So what values does it advance or protect? And the argument is progress. And a free society is one of continuous innovation. And if you have to get permission for every new thing you do, whether opening a restaurant or designing a new debate course or a new technology, that slows down progress and is problematic. And economists argue there's more to that story. There's the challenge of entrenched interests trying to block competition and innovation. So this comes from the philosopher Max More, who sort of created the term proactionary principle as a foil to precautionary principle. So really the core to this resolution is the precautionary principle, and how that's been used with the environmental movement and other efforts over decades. And proactionary was an effort to not just be negative, be against precautionary principle. That sounds like you're saying, well, don't be precautious, don't be careful. Instead, it's saying, let's take action first as a higher value than just precaution or worry. So the precautionary principle aims to promote only those policies that's likelihood of harm or both are relatively small. That is, the harm to a particular person or society in general is small. So in a sense, precautionary principle says, prove to me first that no one's going to be hurt, and then I'll let you do it. Prove to me that it's a safe technology, and then you can do it. And that is different than proactionary, which says, let's do it. You want to be careful. You don't want to hurt people. You're responsible if you do hurt people. But difference in the decision there. And then the bigger question, who makes those decisions? Who decides whether you get to go ahead and design a new course, start a new school, open a new restaurant? Proactionary principle valorizes, that is, gives value to calculated risk-taking as essential to human progress, which is the capacity to progress is taken as define us as a species. That is, we move forward, we try new things, we go to new places. Does Elon Musk have a permit to set a settlement in Mars? Well, there's lots of people who say, well, no, and he shouldn't go there until he gets a permit from the UN. Right? The precautionary principle says, look, you could really damage the Martian environment, right? Or the environment on the moon. So let's have a panel get together and decide if it's safe first. Well, those are sort of the trade-offs between take the action, which is Musk's view and other, Jeff Bezos at Blue Origin, we want to launch people into space, set up operations on the moon, operations on Mars, orbiting colonies, whatever. Let's go ahead and do that. Take action to do that. That's good for the species, whereas others might say, well, no, you don't have permission to do that. So innovation holdup, right? So this is an article from FEE called The Hidden Holdup to American Innovation. and it's by Abigail Narby. I'm not sure how her last name's pronounced, but I encourage you to take a look at the article. There's the link to it there. And the point is to give people a better understanding of how precautionary principle can slow down wealth creation and progress. And this is particularly looking at regulation, which is again getting permission. So she argues that something like $4 trillion is the cost of excess regulation in the United States. That is the number of regulations to get a permit. So building a house, incredibly high price of housing, particularly on the West Coast, East Coast. Part of that is regulation. You need a lot of permits. You got to go to different people. The house I'm in, part of it is falling down. It's declining. Moles have gone through and undermined it, so the house is sort of tilting on the edge. We brought a company out here to give us an estimate for how much it would cost to sort of hold that up. So pretty darn expensive, and turned out to get a permit to do it legally was way more expensive. Thousands and thousands of dollars for the engineering study that would allow us to go to the city to get a permit to keep the house from falling down. Well, those sorts of things make housing more expensive, either maintaining it or building it. Replacing a water heater. We got one from Home Depot. We got a guy from Home Depot or connected with them to come out and install it. And he goes through the whole thing and says, well, it's not legal because you don't have a permit because it's not this, that, or the other thing. So it cost us hundreds of dollars more to have the inspector come from the city to see if it's legal. So anyway, those sorts of things. Now you want things to be safe, but the cost of regulations that don't directly increase safety is part of the problem. So here's an example, medicines in hospitals. This is very much, we got a pandemic going on. People needed permits to develop new tests that would help people, know if they were infectious, develop new masks and other things, develop new treatments, antibody treatments. All those things are very difficult to do because people can't afford the permits for them. Same with vaccine development and others. So doctors and hospitals, they could set up plenty of new hospitals for people, emergency rooms and ICUs, but they need a permit. A certificate of need permit in many states blocks new hospitals from being set up. Same with medical care, telemedicine. They've waived some of those restrictions, but still they're a problem. I think I need to move this way so my hand is on the green screen. I don't know. So there's a green screen behind me. I don't know if that's going to work. Might just look ridiculous with green, or maybe I'll put something interesting there. So similarly, you have a system, this is again from this article, where the laws and rules hold people accountable for what they do, either by cultural standards or standards of efficiency. But on average, some 27 regulations are added to every law that's passed. So Congress passes a law, the Clean Water Act, but the regulatory agencies add a huge range of regulations on top of that. That means it's harder to get a permit. So a farmer in Montana tries to put a little dam to hold a stream so his kids can play in the water and he can hold some water from his horses. EPA says no, he needs a permit from the federal government because they regulate navigable waters. Well, this is a stream like 2 feet wide. It's like a big ship is going to come up it. It's ridiculous. But those regulations at the state level, at the federal level, add to the cost of doing simple things on a farm, in a business, in a home. So too many regulations, the argument is, beyond what's needed for safety or even protecting the environment. So what's the cost of regulation? The Competitive Enterprise Institute publishes an annual survey, 10,000 commandments, the commandments from the federal government. This is a 2021 version. An estimated 1.9 trillion hidden tax of regulations. It's bigger than all the corporate and personal income taxes combined. This is the cost of excess permission required from the federal government and state governments to do everyday things that would help people in society. So again, this is beyond what protects the environment, beyond what protects people. This is just excess regulation. And the argument is, this is part of the precautionary principle. Let's be careful, it says, and this is part of the consequence of that. So each U.S. household, the burden is estimated to be $14,000 per household. It's like a 17% tax, pre-tax household budget that everyone has to pay. So we would be far wealthier, as well as safer, as well as a better protected environment without these excess regulations, according to this approach. And again, this is to be debated. People disagree with this, and as debaters, you should understand different sides of this, and I've got more overheads on that as well. You can see the number, and the argument is some $38 trillion wasted in excess regulation since 1949, according to this, an earlier version of this. This is just for 1936 to 2011, the cost of that. Here's another article from FEE, Permissionless Innovation and the Precautionary Principle. Again, this is directly on your topic. An argument is, should innovators get a permission slip before they can innovate, before they can start a new invention some other way? Cities across the country, for example, when Uber and Lyft, this innovation that you can get an app on your phone to call a taxi, to call for a ride, and everyday people could provide the rides. You could see their faces, know who they are. They could see you, know who you are, learn your reputation from your ratings. These were really interesting innovations, and the first thing that all the cities in the country did is try and stop it, because they're beholden to the taxi industry and the other transportation companies that have permits, and they tried to stop the ride-sharing operation. Similarly with Airbnb, all these anti-Airbnb organizations turned out to be funded by the hotel industry that says we don't want people renting out a room in their house competing with the local hotels. Similarly, smart cars, drones, delivered goods, biomedical devices, 3D printers. There's a whole bunch of these technologies, and you want them to be safe, you want to be careful, but too much regulation makes things worse. So these are not just facing safety scrutiny that you would want people, the insurance industry, for example, or underwriters' laboratories to do, but also you're getting existing customers, existing providers trying to stop these regulations by going to government and saying, let's put excess regulation on this. Let's try and stop this competition. So in this article, the author talks about a book called Permissionless Innovation. And she quotes the author on this. But again, UPS and FedEx, those were innovations against the post office. The post office tried to stop them in a sense. It's an interesting history. So this is a growing debate about emerging technologies and whether we should have the precautionary principle, that is, prove to me that you're safe and nobody gets hurt, or we embrace permissionless innovation. So she cites the author Adam Therier, I'm not sure of the pronunciation, argues that this is a dangerous trend that should be rejected. We should invite innovation and progress, and again, want people to be careful, but you shouldn't have to go to the government to prove your innovation is safe and a good idea. And you can get the book. It's fairly inexpensive, available online. You can also look inside online and read the ideas in the book and find some of the author's articles and videos online as well. He was with the Mercatus Center. So here's another article from the Foundation for Economic Education, Consumption, Innovation, and the Source of Wealth. And this is looking at sort of the nature of capitalism, the market economy, and arguing. Steve Horowitz passed away recently, very sad. Steve Horowitz argues that the market system is one of constant innovation. We're constantly figuring out how to do things better. Consumers are finding out what they want, and workers are finding out how to be more productive. Companies are developing new technologies, and this creativity, this productivity is what drives the economy. You often hear the newspapers or economists say, no, it's the consumer-driven economy. Consumers aren't spending enough. Well, it's producers that are the most important thing, producing more goods and services. And of course, people earn money producing, and they can use that money to consume. So innovation is how you create wealth. The innovator produces, the consumer consumes, and Dr. Horowitz talks about this. the wealth of the innovator is the profit that he or she earns. The wealth created comes to the consumer either from lower prices because they figured out how a way to make it better, or more valuable goods. People are willing to pay more. People's wages go up as they become more productive as they learn skills and companies learn how to deploy those skills more effectively, or as entrepreneurs start new companies. So this value creation drives the economy, makes consumption possible. This is more production first, then consumption, but you need permission. I mean, if you're going to do constant innovation, you have to go to the government all the time for a permit. That means you're spending time getting a permit instead of actually producing goods and services or thinking about other ones. So there's trade-offs in that. So just to wind up here in this section, there's many ways to look at society and exchange. Economics is about incentives and information and trade-offs. Proactionary and precautionary principles involve the economics and regulation of risk and insurance. If you think about, you might say, well, gosh, the precautionary principle side on the negative, we just want to make sure it's safe. How are you going to do that unless you're embrace the precautionary principle? Well, you get insurance. That's what insurance does. You have an insurance company. And this story, what is safe? Is driving a car safe? Bicycling, flying in an airplane, skydiving. People take risks all the time. We let people go rock climbing, skydiving. Do they get a permit for that? Well, the idea is you buy insurance. So there's insurance in case something goes wrong. And those insurance companies are the ones who are deciding if this new technology is safe enough. Who decides if driving is safe enough? Is gasoline safe? Gasoline can blow up. Lithium batteries in electric cars, they can blow up or catch fire. Hydrogen powered cars, they can blow up as well. So anytime you have concentrated energy, it's dangerous. Who decides the safety level of gasoline, lithium, hydrogen? Nuclear power, thorium power, fusion, these are new energy technologies. They need to be developed. They compare on cost, but also on safety. And again, more on energy, different kinds of energy. But in all these things, the role of safety is one engaged in by actuaries who look at risk, by insurance companies, reinsurance. Lloyd's of London is one of the insurance companies. So we want to escape poverty. We want to reduce risk. Prosperity in and of itself reduces mortality. A Mercedes is a safer car than a used 20-year-old car. So you want, as people are wealthier, they can buy safer cars. As innovation takes place, the cars get safer. Global poverty has declined dramatically in recent decades as we've had more economic freedom, more people able to work and invest in China, India, and other countries. So you see this huge increase, population's increased, but the number of people in poverty has gone down dramatically. And that's part of allowing innovation, investment, and progress. So don't ban new technologies. You want to experiment with them, make sure they're safe. You've got consumer product safety, which this author says is a good thing. Again, different ways to go about it. In my next presentation, I'll talk about the role of Underwriters Laboratories as a non-government organization that tries to determine whether new technologies are safe by testing them. And no insurance company is going to allow a product to be sold at Walmart or Target unless it's certified by Underwriters Laboratory or another private organization that certifies safety. So that certification is different from regulation. And in the status quo, we have lots of regulations, but certification would be a better way to have private companies, insurance companies certify the safety of goods and services. So that's it for now. This was supposed to be a 4-minute thing. Who knows how long it's gone. We'll stop here, and thank you very much for listening. Great. Thanks.